Hey friend, Church D coming at you once again. Thank you for tuning into What Does It Take to Win. I hope you're having a good week so far. I hope your day is going well. If you're just starting off your day by listening to this podcast, I hope this makes your day even better, and that just great things will find you. Hey, I just want to give a quick shout out to all of my listeners all across the globe, my listeners in Europe, South America, out in East Asia, some of my listeners in Eastern Africa, Western Africa, United States, of course, South America, Mexico, and I think I had a couple in Canada as well. I just want to give you guys a shout out. You guys are the real MVP. Thanks for checking me out. Be sure to keep sharing. Oh, I think I do have a couple in Australia and New Zealand too. Yeah, but that's pretty awesome for the quiet kid who never said a word growing up and going through school. But that's another story. Thanks for checking me out. Also, I just want to remind you, I did release some new music at the end of May, the end of Mental Health Awareness Month, and I put out a single entitled Don't Quit. It's a positive message that's attached to that. It has some nice, really jazz, hip-hoppy vibes to it. So if you're into that kind of stuff, be sure to give it a listen and be sure to share it. You can download it, you could stream it, you could purchase it, whatever. Check it out. Also be sure to check out my entire catalog of music. I put out a bunch of albums. I put out The Cactus, Bare Minimum 2.0. That came out in 2019. I put out a single in 2020 by the name of The Vision. And then in 2020, a few months after that single came out, I released my EP entitled The Big Reveal. At the top of this year, I put out a full-length album entitled Something's Missing, which is actually one of my favorite pieces of work to date. Not to say that my other pieces of work aren't great, but that's just my favorite. Sometimes you have to pick your favorites, right? So go ahead and give it a listen, give it a share, give it a thumbs up. Like I said, you can download it. It's available on any and every platform wherever you get your music. Be sure to do that. I also still make beats. So if you're looking for instrumentals, if you're looking for beats, if you're a songwriter, a rapper, a singer, if you are a vlogger, if you're another podcaster and you say, hey, I would like some music for my jingle, or I just need some background music for some of my videos, I got you covered. Go ahead and click the link in this description and you can select lease beats or get beats. And you can go ahead and download them and you can lease them. If you want some beats for exclusively yourself, meaning nobody else will have access to it, then you can reach out to me and we could talk about exclusive rights and the pricing and what it'll be for that. And I can draft up the contract and all that fun stuff that goes with it. But yes, feel free to do that. Also, if you'd like to give a donation towards this podcast or towards any of my endeavors, you can also do that by clicking the link in the description and just go ahead and click donate. I'm not asking for a donation. You're not required to give a donation. But if you feel the need, I just want to be able to open that up to you in case you're like, hey, I like what you're saying. You've helped me out a lot and I really appreciate this. By all means, I'll definitely receive a donation and I'll put it to good use as said before. And so, yeah, that's that for my promo. Let's dive right into the topic of the hour, as I always say. So last week, we talked about being quiet and being still and just, learning to shut up. That was the title of the previous episode. Well, this episode, we're going to shift gears and just talk about life overall. So the title of this episode is Life Happens. Or does it? Now, where I got this from was I was sort of just sitting down and, these things sort of just get dropped into my spirit, if you will. And, I'll have an idea and I'll say, I wonder, okay, And then I'll just begin to start writing down my thoughts. And I figured, okay, let me go ahead and share it with these people, you listeners out there. I wanted to offer you some encouragement in regards to life just happening. So, I used to stress myself out a lot. Even today, I still kind of stress myself out here and there, but I've learned how to manage that. Thank goodness. But I used to stress myself out a lot about the path my life would take. I would always think to myself, okay, maybe I won't be able to control my destiny, and I'd fall victim to being tied up into a lifestyle that I don't want. And by that, I mean, I don't know, working at a job that I hate or being wrapped up with friends that I'm trying to get away from that just don't fit the vision that I have for my life, stuff like that. But I came to find out that nothing could be further from the truth. So like, for example, growing up, people would always say to me, life happens. Or, and the reason why they would say that is because they were in less than fortunate situations. Or they would say something like, okay, well, when you get my age, this is going to happen to you. And well, I've reached their age and it did not happen to me. So that sort of just opened my eyes to know and to see that, okay, that's not necessarily always going to be the case. I had to learn and I had to train my mind to reject that negativity and pretty much focus on God's plan and how it aligns with my life. Okay, so I have a few points for you guys to chew on. I try to keep it short and simple for you. So the first point is don't listen. Now, I know I did the last week's episode of Shut Up and, pretty much telling you guys to listen. But hear me out. There's a reason why I'm saying don't listen. This is not a contradiction. The second point is life doesn't just happen if we're constantly preparing. And the third and final point is to just get with God's plan and everything's going to work out. So let's start it off with the first point of don't listen. Now, the reason why I say this is because we have a lot of people in our ears, especially ones who love us. And of course, you have the ones who don't love us and who are jealous and who are out to get us, right? But the ones who love us can sometimes be a bit overprotective. And they always want to give you advice, but you have to learn to separate that advice from sound advice. Not all advice is sound advice. While our friends, our families, our colleagues, etc., while they may believe they're helping us out, that's not always the case. They may not realize it, but sometimes they offer more harm than help just by sharing their negative experiences. So, for example, as I mentioned earlier on, just moments ago, about how somebody told me years ago, once I got their age, something would happen to me, and to come to find out it did not happen to me. I lived my life in fear that it would happen to me, almost to the point where I was like paralyzing myself, believing that it would happen. So thankfully, I did everything in my power to make sure this did not happen to me. And of course, it did not happen to me after all. So the thing I'm talking about, if you know me, I'm into fitness. I like to try and live a healthy lifestyle. So this person, when I was really young, I was probably like in my late teens or so, like maybe 18, 19 in college, right? I was getting big into the gym at that point. I'd been lifting, they would make fun of me and say, oh, haha, you have a big chest, blah, 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 and all that stuff, whatever, right? But they would say to me, hey, I see you're in shape right now, but watch, once you turn my age, everything's just going to drop and you're going to be really fat and out of shape and flabby. This is no disrespect to those who are on the heavier side. Nothing wrong with being heavy. You are who you are. You're beautiful. You're God's creation. You know what I'm saying? But I know for me and my body type, it's just I can't carry that amount of weight. But that's besides the point. So yeah, they would say to me, they say, hey, I see you're working out now. That's good. But as soon as you hit a certain age, everything's going to change. You're not going to have as much muscle mass. It's just going to turn to flab. You're going to get fat and all this other stuff. And I was worried. I was like, oh no, this is going to happen. But I mean, I guess that is kind of good that they said that, because it sort of pushed me to stay in the gym. I did take a little break for a couple of years, and surely enough, I did put on a few pounds. But ultimately, as I reached their age, I could say with confidence that everything they told me that would happen to my gains, my muscle mass and all that good stuff, it did not happen. And a good way to deal with this is to, sort of sit back and observe them. Like, yeah, they may feel that they're giving you some good advice and they're trying to look out for you. But yes, you can, as you're not listening, like when I say don't listen, don't take in what they're saying to you. So if they're going to say, once you reach this age, this bad thing is going to happen to you, or this negative thing is going to happen to you, don't take that in. It's almost like accepting a bad word over your life. Don't take that in. But instead, sit back and observe what they did, or maybe even ask them a question and say, okay, well, what caused you to have to go through this at this age? Was it diet? Was it exercise? Was it lack of motivation? And this is only as it pertains to the fitness example that I gave, but it can be with anything else. Like, let's say they had financial difficulties once they reached a certain age. You can ask them, okay, well, how did you manage your money? Were you in debt? Were you creating unnecessary expenses? And so on. So pretty much just When I say don't listen, don't take it in. Don't accept the negativity that they are spewing out, if you will, onto you. It's almost like accepting a curse. Reject it, okay? That was a bit of a mouthful, but I think you guys got the point. Okay, so let's move on to my second point. And that second point is life doesn't just happen if we're constantly preparing. Now, nobody knows what the future holds ultimately, but we can set up a framework for how we'd like and expect our futures to go. So, for example, I talked a little bit about money towards the end of the last point. But for example, if you need money and you're not quite qualified for a job that pays you your desired salary, you can take a job that pays you a little bit less. That way, you'll begin to make the money that you're lacking. You can gain some experience. And then once you have that experience, you can demand for a pay raise or leave that job and get a higher paying job, right? You can get the job that you want. Let's say you're into materialistic things. You love fancy clothes, nice cars, etc. But at this point, you can't quite afford it. You can't quite afford to look nice. What you can do if you're planning on buying expensive things, you may want to start planning and setting aside money specifically for that purpose. And then, obviously you focus on your regular expenses, but put aside some of your petty cash, some of your money to play with. That way you don't go broke trying to look good and trying to impress people who don't really care for you. But that's another story. Let me not slide that in there. Or let's say you want to purchase a home. You want to be a homeowner. And these days, with how the market is looking, I don't know. Like, you have to be super rich to own. Again, that's another story. But say you want to be a homeowner. You can do your research, and begin to put aside some money for that. So you'll have like a nice safety net for when you do put down a down payment on your home. And, you won't have to be stressing yourself out about paying a mortgage and so on. So the point that I'm trying to really drive home is just you have to continue to prepare. Life doesn't just happen, actually. It's not going to just come at you if you're constantly preparing. Here's an example. I was somewhere recently and, if you know me, I'm a musician. Obviously, I do the musician stuff. I do the production, blah, blah, blah. I was somewhere recently and there was no drummer around, and I'm usually prepared. I'm like, okay, well, let me just bring my drum machine where I can sort of launch these loops, on the fly. And I happened to have my laptop with me as well. So I was like double prepared. So I plugged in my drum machine to use as, my virtual drummer, if you will. And there was a short in my wire, so it wasn't working. The drum machine would just not turn on. I've been using this thing, I don't know, for almost 2 decades and didn't have this issue. But there was something going on with the cables, and long story short, the drum machine was not able to turn on. So it was looking kind of crazy, like, oh no, we're not going to have a drummer. Prior to that, I'd say maybe 3 years ago, I went on this like crazy loop creating spree, if you will. And I just created a loop for every scenario and I saved it on my laptop. So just in case I didn't have a drummer, or if I needed to have like something that would serve as a metronome, but also fill in different percussive elements on a show, or like if I'm playing in church or something, I would have that. So I have like this master list of all of my loops that can have the tempo and the BPM modified. So just as my drum machine stopped working, I was able to pull my laptop out, plug it right in, and play the loops. So it was like we had some sort of drums or percussion going at that same time. So as I'm going to stress again, is life doesn't just happen if you're always preparing. I was always preparing. I didn't even know why I was making so many loops a few years ago. I just did it because I was like, there's going to come a point in time in which this is going to be needed. And surely enough, fast forward a few years later, I was all set. Life didn't just happen. Okay, so take that little nugget as I move on to the third and final point. I'm going to try to get you guys out of here really quickly and not do the 20-minute podcast again. The third and final point is like the most important point, which is get with God's plan and it will all work out. So pretty much like the word for this season, the word for this year, the word for this time is alignment. You want to get into full alignment with God's plan for your life. I'm going to throw this in for you, and this is, kind of personal without going into too much detail. But for a long time, I'd been asking God for something specific over my life. I had a void that needed to be filled, and I was going directly specific, like, okay, God, this is exactly what I want, and this is going to take care of the problem I have, or this is what I think will take care of the problem that I have. Give me this, right? Specific. But one day I stopped, and I had been asking him this for months too, probably even a year or so. But one day I stopped, and I was like, you know what? I asked God to send me what was best for me rather than what I thought I wanted. And when I did that, that's when I received exactly what I needed. And it's like even bigger than what I thought I wanted, even better than what I thought I wanted. So the key to this is to stay in alignment, okay, with the plan that God has for your life. So like when you're saying your prayers and you're saying, okay, God, give me this, God, give me that. Yeah, he'll probably give you stuff, everything that you ask him for. But you got to make sure it's in alignment, because then you'll start finding that, okay, well, how come this prayer is not being answered? How come that prayer is not being answered? It's because you're probably out of alignment with God's plan for your life. So sometimes you got to take a step back and ask God and say, okay, all right, what's good? Like, what's your plan for my life? How can I get into alignment with that? Then you can ask him, and then whatever you want, you'll get. So, yeah, that was the third and final point. I hope that wasn't too preachy for you guys, but hey, it is who I am, and I hope that can help you. I hope it can encourage you. So let's do a quick recap of the 3 points. The first point is don't listen. Not all advice is sound advice. Don't accept whatever negativity they throw at you. The second point, life doesn't just happen if we're constantly preparing. The third and final point, get with God's plan and it will all work out. Trust me, this works. He's got the best plans for you. Thanks for listening to this podcast. I hope it blessed you and I hope it encouraged you. Hey, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and to share this. Share it with your friends, share it with your family, share it with people you don't even like. Share it with that person who keeps bothering you for advice. I got you covered. And lastly, if you'd like to connect with me, just click the link in the description for all of my content. I have some great things in store for you. Thanks for tuning in. God bless.